Hi, I had a request to maybe go over the structure of the databases just a little more with you. One thing to keep in mind is this book is really short and simple and to the point. It's not really a textbook. It's one of the best books I've ever used. All my students love it. But it talks about an entirely different database. So what you have to do is anytime it references a table, you just have to replace that table with the table you're going to be looking at. Anytime it references columns, you replace those columns with the columns you're looking at. So it's not going to step you through any of the assignments other than you're looking at the syntax, like select columns from table. That's as simple as it gets. So, okay, so for the AP database, there's a couple ways to do this to get familiar with it. If I click on the AP database, I expand it, and I go into tables, you can see the tables that are associated with the AP database. If I open up the vendors table and then go to columns, I can see the columns that are associated with the vendors. So in a table, it's storing the vendor ID, their name, their address, their city, their state, their zip. It tells you what kind of data it's storing, like the vendor key is an integer, the vendor name is a character. So it tells you, like the vendor state is just a two-letter character. So that can tell you what you need to know about the database as well. Another thing you can do, and I'm gonna go ahead and post these on Blackboard, is you can look at a database diagram. So I went ahead and made this and I'll post it on Blackboard. This is a visual representation of it. So if I look here, I've got the vendor table, and it shows all those same fields: vendor ID, name, address, city, state, zip, and it shows you how these tables are related. In other words, in the invoices table, you see that there's a vendor ID, and that's pulling from the vendors table. In the invoice, if you think of the invoices as like this part as being like the header of an invoice, and this part being like the individual line items of an invoice. So in the invoice line items, it matches up to the invoice ID up here. That's what doing a relational database is about, is that I separate the data into different tables, but they have some connecting factor that allows me to bring them all back together. So in the AP database, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tables you'll deal with: the terms table, the vendors, the invoices, the invoice line items, and the GL accounts. In the My Guitar Shop, there are 6 tables you'll deal with: products, order items, orders, customers, addresses, categories. So it's kind of the same situation here. This is where you do most of your homework. The orders table is kind of like the header of an order, and the order items are like the individual lines of that order. And obviously, every order item is tied to a product. So you can see the product ID here is tied to the products table. In your products table, every product has got some kind of category, so it pulls from this categories table. This one seems a little silly, but for the customers, they've separated their addresses out into a separate table, and that's probably because they have like maybe maybe not. Yeah, they do. They have a shipping address and a billing address, so that way they tie back to the addresses here. Otherwise, they would have had shipping address, all the fields that go with it, and then they would have had billing address and all the fields that go with this, and that table would become pretty big. So I'm gonna go ahead and post these. I would print these and have them, because A, it tells you the table names, and B, it tells you the columns inside of it. And when we get to the part where we start relating these tables, right now we're just pulling from one table at a time. When we start pulling from more than one table, you're gonna have to know how they tie together in order to do that. You're gonna have to know how they relate to each other. So like I said, if I do a new query real quick, like I'm not sure what the syntax was in the book for selecting all the columns in a table, but basically I think they probably said select star from a table name. That's probably kind of how they had it. So really what I can do is I can replace that table name. Let's say I want to pull all the columns in from the vendors. So, I'm just replacing column names with columns I want, or table names with tables I want. Maybe if I don't want all of the columns, I can say select. Maybe I just want the vendor name and the city. So I could say select vendor name, comma, city from vendors. If I run that, I get, it's called, and it's real picky like that. It's actually called vendor city, so I gotta put it in the way they have it. And that's where that database diagram comes in handy. If I run it now, I get just the vendor name and the vendor city. It doesn't do anything to the data, because if I pull everything, it's all still in there. That's just different ways to look at it. So let me know if you have any more questions. If you need any help, I'd be glad to meet you on campus sometime if you want to come and see me. Thank you.